quick review over what we talked about on Friday. 368 is where the review is. Is there anything out of the first few sections, section 1, 2, 3, or 4, that we talked about on Friday that you have questions on? What do you get? Go ahead. Anybody?
The 5 going 8 through 11.
8 through 11? All right, so the biggest question is it linear? Oh, and then it wanted, sorry, I did forget to talk about standard form. What is standard form? No, that you're thinking of direct variation. The direct variation that's the y equals kx, where there's no b value. The standard form is ax plus by equals c, where it's not solved for x or y. You get all the x's and y's on the one side, and then the constants on the other side. So like number 8, is that linear? It says y equals negative 5x plus 1. Is that linear? Yeah, that's in slope-intercept form, isn't it? This in standard form, the only thing I would do to put it in standard form is I would move the 5x back to the other side. This is standard form. This is slope-intercept form. It's just, again, moving stuff around. How about number 9? Is that linear? Yes. There's nothing squared. It's not x times y. It's x plus 2 over 2 equals negative 3y. Yes, we could distribute that. So that's the same thing as x plus 2 equals negative 6y. And then if I wanted to put it in standard form, I got to move that to the left side. The x would stay there. This 6y would come over here and become positive 6y. I also have to move that to the other side, which becomes negative 2. That would be standard form of that one. Easy enough. Number 10, 4y equals 7x. Is that linear? Is anything squared? Any absolute values? Square roots? Is it x times y? No? So yes, that would be linear. Standard form, basically everything would have to be on one side. So you just have to move the 7x over. And that would be standard form. So I'm not too worried about standard form for the test. I don't think standard form is even on the test, to be honest with you. So, and then number 11, that's already in standard form because all the x's and y's are on one side. So, what was your question, Jennifer? Same ones? Okay. Anything else on the first 4? So basically out of section 1, got to know, recognize is something linear or not, and don't just think of the equation form. There's going to be, I think there's 2 questions on the test about that. But there's 3 different versions of that same question. I should be able to give you different graphs and ask you, is it linear? I should be able to give you equations and ask you if they're linear, or give you a table like 4 or 5 and say, is this a linear relationship? And remember, you're looking for constant rate of change, constant growth. Good? And then section 2, x, y intercepts. I think you guys are good at those. Section 3, basically slope. And section 4 is slope formula. I think you guys are good at those. Anything on those? All right. The rest of the chapter, the rest of the sections basically. And then direct variation we also talked about on Friday. Anything questions on those? Remember direct variation, you can do a proportion, butterfly. Well, so 33 through 36, those direct variation, basically those are the ones you worry about, can you write it as y equals kx, where there's no other number. So like number 33, yes, that's direct variation. The constant of variation is -6. That's already in y equals kx. Number 34, can you turn x minus y, equals 0 into something that looks like y equals kx? Yeah, I can get y by itself. I could just move the y to the other side, and it would be y equals x, wouldn't it? Or x equals y, which is the same thing as y equals x. So then my constant of variation, my k value, would be 1 in that case. Number 35 is not. What makes 35 not a direct variation? The 3. Because remember, those are the ones that you look for. Is there any numbers that are not like connected to the x or connected to the y? Any constants? Those would make it so it's not going to be a direct variation. And then like 37 was the one I was talking about with you can just set up a proportion. So 37, what's your proportion? What is to what as what is to what? 37 says the value of y varies directly with x, and y is -8 when x is 2. Find y when x is 3. So -8 goes with 2 as, and then where would the 3 go? Would that go on top or bottom if I did this? So the -8 was a y, right? So I went y to x. So x is bottom, so that means the 3 has to go in the bottom, right? Just got to be consistent. So be careful with those. And then again, yeah, this is just a butterfly, so you can -24 equals 2y. So y is -12. Easy enough? All right. You can guarantee the next few things we talk about are going to be on the test because we did this a lot in here. I need you to know the difference in how to use slope-intercept form versus point-slope form. Slope-intercept form was y equals mx plus b, right? And point-slope form, y minus the y coordinate, right? M times x minus the x, right? And remember, that's where an example, if I gave you a point of -2, 3 with a slope of 4, and I said write that in slope-intercept form, or point-slope form, it'd be y minus 3 equals 4 x plus 2. Why is it minus 3 and plus 2? It's always opposite, right? I need you to be able to take a point and a slope, write it in point-slope form, and then possibly simplify it to slope-intercept, or take the point and the slope, put it in slope-intercept, and write an equation slope-intercept. Where here you could go 3 equals 4, and the x would be -2 plus the b, and then we solve for b, right? So 3 would equal negative 8 plus b, add the 8, and you get 11. So my answer would be y equals 4x plus 11. There's going to be questions like this. 100%. There's going to be questions where I give you a slope and I give you a point, and you have to write it in slope-intercept form, also point-slope form. Are we good with those? We've done a lot of those lately. Yes? That one. This one right here. The worst quiz we've taken recently was on this right here. It was, I can give you a slope and a point and ask you for the two equations, or I give you 2 points. So if you look at like number 47, they give you the point 1, 4 and the point 3, 8. Your job, write the equation on the line. What's step 1? What do you have to do? You got to find the slope. So 8 minus 4, that was slow motion. 8 minus 4 over 3 minus 1, you get 4 over 2, which is 2. After you find the slope, what's the next step? You can either use y equals mx plus b, right? If you like that method, let's say we use the point 1, 4, because does it really matter what point we use? What would my y be? 4 equals my slope, 1 plus b. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus what is 4? So what would my answer be? My answer would be y equals 2x plus 2. Or you could have done it in point slope form, where you'd say y minus my y coordinate, which would be 4, equals my slope, x minus 1. And then, yes, you should be able to distribute y minus 4, add the 4 to the other side, and negative 2 plus 4 would be 2. And again, you should get the same answer. Do you think there will be questions like this on the test? 100% guaranteed.
On the quiz, I always get them like wrong because I mix up the negative. Like in point slope form, I have to like option.
Oh, like minusing the 2 at this step? Yeah. And the best thing I can recommend, honestly, is try it multiple ways. Because if you try it multiple ways and you get the same answer, you can basically guarantee yourself the right answer. I get it. It's, you don't want to do the same question multiple times. I get it. I don't want to do it either. But when it's valuable, when the pressure's on of this has to be right because I need a good score, yeah, that's the time, to measure twice kind of thing. It's the old adage, measure twice, cut once. Well, if I'm building something for myself that doesn't really matter, if I get the measurement a little bit off, does it really matter? No. If I go buy, a $75 or a $200 piece of wood, and I'm going to make a bar top out of that, do you think I'm going to measure it once and just start cutting, or am I going to double check that measurement and make sure it's perfect before I grab the saw and start cutting? Because once you grab the saw, it's over, right? It's got to be right. So, same idea, Try it twice. Make sure you have the right answer before you go turn that test in. There will be questions like so there won't be questions on the test tomorrow as much as like 51 through 54. There might be a couple of which lines are parallel, which lines are perpendicular. But I can also guarantee you there's going to be questions like 56, where I give you an equation. What is that one? 2x minus 4? And I give you a point of 1, negative 1. Now, on the test, it might say parallel. So parallel to this, and goes through that point. Or it might say perpendicular to that, and goes through that point. What's the difference? It's all about slope. If it's parallel, what's the slope that I'm going to use? 2, right? Because parallel lines have same slope. If it says perpendicular, what's the slope I'm going to use? Negative 1/2. It's opposite reciprocal. Then it becomes exactly the same question as this. Or it's exactly the same question as this. I have a point, I have a slope. I got to find the equation. I have a point, I have the slope. I have a point, I have the slope. It's exactly the same process. So you could go y equals mx plus b, plug in my y, plug in my slope, plug in my x coordinate, solve for b. Or over here, the only difference, I would use a different slope. So depending on the question, it's just a matter of what slope am I going to use. You can guarantee yourself there's going to be at least a question or two like this. You know, maybe one that says parallel and one that says perpendicular. Good? Last section, you guys did really well on. That was the transformation stuff. What happens when I have this go to here? When the B changes, what does that do to the line? Careful. When the B changes, this is a transformation. In other words, a slide, right? And in this case, what would it do? It would go up. And in this case, up 8, right? Easy? So when the B changes, it's a slide. It's a transformation. What happens when the M changes? That's a rotation. In this one, would it be counterclockwise or clockwise? It's getting bigger. The M got bigger. So that's going to be a counterclockwise. Okay? We good with those? Can you do both? Yes. I mean, I could give you something like y equals 1/2 x plus 8 and say what's happening when it becomes 4x minus 2. So this rotated counterclockwise because the slope got bigger, and it slid or transformed down, right? Down 10. Easy enough? And then there's also the reflections. across the y. So if I give you y equals 7x plus 2, what's the equation that would be reflected across the y? Negative 7x plus 2. Yes? Just the slope becomes the opposite. If it's positive, it's negative, vice versa. That's your whole test, guys. Really is.